All right, well, welcome everybody. We're back for Marriages by Design in our simple podcast, but great people we bring to you all again today. This is Ernie and Sarah Garza. Feel like we've known them forever now. Love being around them. We don't get to be around them as often as we like, but if we lived down in their area, we would definitely be a part of their church.
So you say it's the distance.
Yeah.
Their family, we'll get into that. I loved Ernie's mother, just made me laugh all the time. And I loved to laugh. And she was just great at it. She would just send me texts that nobody knew that I got because she knew I could handle them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so love Ernie and Sarah, but I want them to kind of start out who they are and about their family, and then we'll kind of go into their marriage.
Do you want me to talk about our immediate family?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who I am is Sarah Garza, and I've lived in Branson, Missouri for 12 years. We moved here from Idaho. That's where my family's originally from and where most of them still are. We have 4 children, ages 21, 18, 15, yeah, and 8. There's a lot of them. We have a lot of kids.
We should probably learn their names.
That might be a good idea.
And yeah, I work from home. I love that. That's something that just, I just got a job working from home about 3 years ago. I like to hang out with my friends. I like to laugh. I like to sew. I like to eat good food.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's awesome. My name's Ernie, and Sarah and I have been married 22 years now. I think it was 2002 when we were married in Branson West, Missouri. But I do real estate currently. Been doing that for about 5 years. I've also been playing music professionally for several years, I think going back to the mid-2000s. And kind of found myself stumbling into the music scene in Branson, not because I was looking for it, but just because opportunities arose, and I think God opened doors that, kind of fit what I do. And so it was a neat experience, and I've kind of started to land the plane on that part of my life, and playing here and there. But I like to still play at church every week and do that, and it scratches the itch. But it's also ministry. And so if I can keep doing that as long as I can, I think I will. So, but yeah, that's who we are.
Great guitarist.
Thank you.
Tremendous job. Tremendous in worship. Just enjoy all of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
So let's talk about when. I hope your memory's better than mine.
How you met?
How we met and
I
how
kind of
long
remember
ago
this
it
story a
was.
little bit, but
You do?
This is a good story.
a little bit. Yeah, it is a good
Okay.
story.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm going to tell you this
I'm
good
getting
story.
older, so I don't remember.
I'm all ears.
So I worked at Evangel University back, a million years ago, and I worked at the front desk. So all of the faxes came into my department. It was back when people had fax machines.
Yeah.
And I would get all the faxes, and I would collect them, and I would call each department and say, hey, I've got this for you. And there was a time when one came in for the criminal justice department, and it was for a citizens police academy. And I hadn't lived in Springfield very long, and I thought, I should really look into my community. I should find out what this is about. So that was it. I just called the phone number on the fax, and I signed up for something called Citizens Police Academy, which is, you might be able to
Yeah,
talk
it was
a little bit
it
more
was a
about that.
10-week it was a 10-week program that the city of Springfield would put on for citizens of the community to learn more about the police department. And during that time, they would see canine demonstrations. They would learn a little bit about what officers do on a daily basis, and they encouraged them to do ride-alongs so that they can see for themselves what happens in a 10-hour shift.
And also at the time, my first marriage had come to an end against my, I didn't want it to, but I didn't have a choice. And so I was also newly single and just thinking, like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, this is not how I thought my life would end up. So I've got to start. I mean, I did other things too, and kind of stepping out and figuring that out. But one of those things was, well, I better learn about my community. I better get out there more. So I did. I took the Citizens Police Academy, and at the very end of that, they pick you to ride along with an officer.
And I was working as a police officer with the city of Springfield at the time, and I got picked to take her on a ride along. And the funny thing is I'm just a little baby segue here. I had just coming out of a 3-year relationship where I was actually engaged to someone else, and I had just ended that relationship. I mean, it was fresh. And I remember when she sat in my car, and I think within the first maybe 30 minutes, I thought to myself, I said, God, why can't I find somebody? She was sitting over here at the time, and I said, why can't I just find somebody like this? Why did I have to go through 3 years of what I went through when I could, I just want something like this. And lo and behold, he's like, I'm not going to give you someone like that. I'm going to give you that, And
I just want to clarify, I was not looking for a man. I was trying to do outreach in my community, But when I walked into that police department, I remember it's just kind of a sea of police officers, and they all look the same. Well, I mean, they really all have
Gotcha.
the same haircut.
Uniforms,
Yeah,
yeah.
but not this one. This one was tall and dark and handsome, and he did catch my eye. But again, I was still there to just serve the community.
Yes, you were.
So she invited me to church. She was attending Central Assembly at the time. She invited me to church. I agreed to go, and
I was nervous because I met him in his uniform, and I thought, what if this guy does not know how to dress? What if he,
that is so
I mean,
you.
he's so handsome, but what if he's, anyway, he looked great.
I'm starting to remember the story.
yeah, I appreciate that. So that's how we met.
At Central Assembly.
At
That's
Central
where I
Assembly,
went.
that's right. Yeah, and so we ended up getting married. We were engaged after 8 months after we started dating, and married at 1 year. And then we stayed in Springfield for a few years, and
We got pregnant on our honeymoon.
got pregnant on our honeymoon.
That was a surprise.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
And we were
It
married.
was.
We were married. So, so it wasn't very long that her grandmother was terminally ill with cancer, and they were sorting through a bunch of family estate things, and she wanted to essentially gift us some real estate in Idaho. So we agreed to move to Idaho. So we quit our jobs here and moved to Idaho. And what I thought was going to be maybe 2 years tops ended up being 7 years. And in that 7 years,
2 more kids were born.
2 more kids were
Yeah.
born. I got into full-time ministry, at our church, and things were going really well. Until we started to feel unsettled. And I'm going to try to give you the Reader's Digest version because I know we're on a time limit here. But
Yeah, all right.
You're good.
we started to feel unsettled. We were both on staff at our church, and we didn't know why we felt that way. We loved our pastors, loved our church, loved our community.
Yes,
Her
still
family
do.
was there. Things were good. But we had this unsettled feeling. Well, then we get this phone call from my sister and brother-in-law, Mike and Amanda Carlton, and they start to share this vision of a church that they want to start in Branson. And my first thought was, why Branson? There's 100 churches in Branson. They've already done that. And he said, I can't. It's Branson. God just dropped it in my spirit. This is what it's going to be. And I said, okay. And he said, I want you to start praying about moving, back to Missouri to help us start this church. And at the time, I was like, sure. And then I never gave it another thought. And months went by. They actually flew up to visit us. They stayed with us for about a week. And my pastor at the time, Lynn Hardy, he really liked Mike. He thought he was a neat person. He said, do you think he'd want to preach? And I said, I can ask him. So he asked Mike and said, you want to preach? He said, sure, I'll preach. Sarah and I had never heard him preach. So we're like,
We were a little
I mean, we
nervous.
can't vouch for him. I don't know what's
Turns
going
out
to
okay.
Good luck with that.
He's family.
I mean, we really never ever
Never
had.
heard him
I mean,
preach.
in all of our relationship, they've always been
That's
so
funny.
close. They would come and visit us every
Yeah.
year, see the kids. Like, we just love them. But that
I was working with your sister at the
You were
time.
working with
They were
Amanda.
starting all of
That's
this.
right.
That's
That's
right.
right. Yes.
And so what was interesting, so Mike ends up preaching. Now we're in our church community, our church family there, where everyone's been saved for decades and they're all just mature in their faith and everything. And Mike does an altar call, and like 7 people got saved at the end of the sermon. And I'm like, what in the world?
I think I got saved again too.
Yeah, I'm like, are we missing something
Make
here?
sure here,
It's
you
like, well, if you don't ask, you're not going to get,
Yeah.
right? And I think we had this culture of like, well, everybody here is saved, and we're all good. We're just wanting more of God, more of the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit. Well, it was shocking to me. And then as they started to share what this vision of this church was going to look like and feel like and sound like and all this, Sarah and I started to fall in love with this church that didn't even exist yet. And I said, you know what? I promise you, I'll give you my word, I will start praying about this. But it was important that we prayed separately because I didn't want to pull her away from her family.
Sure.
And so we prayed separately for a few months. And I remember waking up with this overwhelming feeling that we were supposed to move to Branson to start Bloom Church. And I remember waking up and I just put my feet on the floor and I said, hey, babe. And she said, yeah. And I said, I think it's time. And that's all I said. And she said, what, to move to Missouri and start Bloom Church? And I said, yeah. She goes, I feel the same way. So that was the launch, getting us back to Missouri. And shortly after that, the stresses, the pressures of a new community, starting a church, no money, no building, no jobs, no house, that kind of thing.
No real community.
no-
Not, at least not a community like where we had come
Well,
from.
right.
It was the beginning of November. It was dark. So dark. You know how it gets here. Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
pastors would pour into us every day. We'd see them. I'd walk into the building. They'd be like, you're a world changer. God's got a plan for your life. You're doing great things. I mean, every day that we walked into that building, we were getting encouraged and lifted up.
Which
And all
I
of
want to
this.
say the reason we found out, which really smacked us between the eyes when we moved here, is how much all of those outside relationships sustained our marriage because we did not know how to sustain our marriage. So we were getting our cup filled from our entire community. And when we moved here in the middle of nowhere with 3 tiny kids and no money and nowhere to put our our focus, that's
Right.
when it really became apparent that we don't really know what we're doing.
We don't know what we're doing. And it wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't a year, and we were separated. And how do you do this? You're doing the Lord's work. You're coming to start a church. You're thinking that you're doing everything right, but yet I don't even know how to be married. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how to be there as a husband. And we separated, and it freaked me out. And I remember moving into our spare bedroom at my parents' house in Branson. And Amanda, after we discussed to them that we were going to be separated, she said, I think that there's somebody that you need to talk to. And
That's your sister.
Amanda, yep,
Yeah.
Amanda, who you worked with.
Yep.
And she said, you need to talk to Todd and Andrea. And they've agreed to meet with you guys and are willing to give up their time. And that's when we started to see you guys, like, what, once a week at least at James River for a long time.
Yeah.
For a long time.
That was so nice.
It was so nice,
met
and
with
that
us
meant
like
the
that.
world to us. But even so, even then, it was really hard to kind of put our finger on what was going on. You guys gave us so many tools, to use with communication and things like that. But we were trying to figure out, like, what is the root of all of this?
Yeah.
And that didn't come until years later after a second separation. So we ended up getting back together after the separation and stayed in counseling with you guys, which was great. And life ends up, hitting you between the eyes. I found out that, I was depressed, severely depressed, and really didn't know which way was up. And she was the closest thing to me, so she would get the brunt of all of my dysfunction, all of my insecurities, and ultimately, which came to light about 2 years ago, was I was gripped by the sin of pride and really didn't know what that looked like until I was on my face and God showed me and highlighted the areas of my life where I was struggling, where I didn't have any control, where I didn't have any hope, where I didn't have anything to do. And we can get to that, in depth later or whenever you want to. But
Yeah.
this was a hard, it was just a hard time in Missouri. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Yes, I would.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really, it just depends on which rabbit trail you want us to go down.
You just tell us what comes to mind.
yeah, I mean,
I think it's like anything in life, you just kind of peel back the layers of an onion, and you peel back one and you're like, oh, this is it. We've arrived. We're healed. We're moving forward. Life is great. And then you realize, I mean, it's movement, it's growth, it's digging down deep, and God takes you to the next level. And while that's what we want, it's still difficult because
not what you asked for.
Right. My favorite is comfortable. I just want to be comfortable.
Yes.
I just want to sit on my
Exactly.
couch with a YouTube fireplace, with a fake cat breathing up and down. Like there has to be a cat. But
If you all don't realize, Sarah's very funny.
oh yeah,
I've always
oh yeah.
always loved that.
so I think, just even right now in this moment, I'm thinking back, maybe that was part of what made it hard, is that it was irritating that we never arrived. We would get through some type of ridiculous, crisis. And then you would think like, oh, good, we finally figured it out. We finally got it all together. Nope, no. And opposites attract, which is why
Indeed.
he's very tall, dark, and handsome, and I am very white.
And later, they can attack.
Yeah.
So-
So this has all been spicy. Like our opinions have not. Yeah. So that's an interesting part of this whole
Yeah,
story.
it's
Is
a whole
we're
nother
very,
dynamic.
very different, and none of that's ever really gone away. Like, so there's that to manage. Like
You can sort of predict it, I guess, but it never goes away, and I like to think that when we reach a certain level of maturity, that it's going to be
I
different.
don't think so.
I don't think so.
What age,
wanna get
what age does that happen?
I know. I was like, I don't know if it gets any more mature than.
Guys, we're knocking on 50, so like I don't know.
Speak for yourself.
This-
We don't talk about
This
this.
better happen. This better happen soon. But
Well, it's funny you talked about
Yeah.
the layers of an onion, because if Andrew and I, on our first podcast and we talk, there's been so much that's happened to Andrew and I. That's why we always say, we don't even say counseling. We say life coaching, because
Yeah,
we're
that's
about
good.
to unload some junk on you. You're about to feel real good about yourself. And I love that for men and women, because Andrew and I have been through so much.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you have to go through them. You don't want to go through them, but you do realize as you go through them each time, it gets a little bit easier if you learn to follow Christ and His Word.
Yeah, we never. I mean, I could be wrong, but for me, my faith is never deepened as much as when I'm caught completely off guard and, in a crisis. Because we never just decide, like, you know what, I'm going to dig down deep because I want to be comfortable, right?
That's
we all
what
do.
most people want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but faith and life-changing, destiny-shifting faith comes always in our darkest moments that we didn't ask for, that come and punch us in the face when we're minding our own business.
Yeah. And you want it to go away.
Yeah, and
but
it's
there's
so
a reason
rude.
it's there.
It's
Yes.
rude. And I mean, I just think of all the times a lot of, this time that we were talking about that was hard and all that. It was just, I just spent so much time in my closet praying, and that's something that is kind of shifted in my relationship with the Lord in the last couple years, is that now it's not just like a desperation, just like a begging and a weeping and a, desperate, please change this, please help me, please dig me out of this hole. Now we're kind of shifting our relationship to like, okay, like, I don't know. It's a difference in me, I think, and a difference in counseling has helped a lot with anxiety and all that kind of thing. So my relationship with the Lord has shifted, and I'm still kind of figuring that out and getting my footing on that. But it's less of like the weeping and the gnashing, and more
Yeah.
of like the steady, like, all right, like, all of your promises are yes and amen. Like, what's the next step here? Because I've literally lived through everything I thought for sure would kill me. If you would have talked to me when I was 22, I would have said, oh, no, I can't do that. Oh, I could never do that. No way can I live through that. Well, I've just lived through it all. Yay.
Yeah.
So, now what? Now we recalibrate and we shift and we do it differently. So that's what's going on.
Yeah, and it's not, and it's interesting because it's not like a steady growth in sometimes in your walk with God where it's just like you start down here and then it just kind of gradually goes up. That would be such a beautiful thing as we enter the
Enter the kingdom. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It starts up and then it goes way up and then
Yeah.
you hit rock
Unfortunately,
bottom.
there's too many
Too many roller coaster.
Too many.
It's and it's
Yeah.
there was times when I was freaking out because she was like, I'm mad at God. Like I'm mad.
And that's a scary statement.
It's so scary. And I'm like, uh-oh, because that's all you had that was
well,
keeping you in
can't,
this.
You can't change people. If anything, Andrea and I've learned about people, sometimes people don't even realize they're a narcissist.
Aren't they usually the ones that
Narcissist
don't realize that?
behavior.
That's
Exactly.
That's exactly right.
But
Yeah.
I believe
And
there's
then-
people that are narcissists, and there are people that just experience the behavior for
Oh,
a
yes,
spell
like
in their life.
tendencies.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you realize that you can't talk to that person. God, you're going to have to,
Yep.
you are going to have to do something.
Yes.
This is beyond any words I can say.
Yeah.
You will have to step in.
So true.
Well, and
So
I don't know which section we're doing now, so I don't know if
Yeah, it doesn't
I'm
matter.
jumping ahead.
No.
Okay,
Doesn't
we're
matter.
jumping ahead to
Yeah,
this section.
you can whatever you
Okay.
want.
We can turn this into 5 hours, guys.
So it was about 2
You
years
just have
ago.
to look at the camera every now and then so they
Oh.
can see your face.
Guys.
There you go. Good job, Sarah.
There she is.
It was about 2 years ago that actually God spoke that specific thing to me because we were going through a crisis, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to Idaho for the summer. I was done." Our counselor asked us, "Do you want to be in this marriage?" And I said, "No, I do not." And then I prayed about it, and God said, "You know what, Sarah, you got to go because I've got to deal with him, and for me to do that, you've got to go." And so I did. And it was a moment like that where you just have to absolutely, there was a lot of things I couldn't hear from him in that moment because I was so angry and so devastated. But that is the one thing I did hear. And it was like, you've got to go because I've got to deal with him. And you can let me know if this is out of turn or not. But
you do wherever God leads you. You just keep going.
Okay. But I think part of what we figured out is that I was kind of always a distraction to what really needed to be happening with him, and as far as the things that he needed to learn and grow in and the things that God was speaking to him. So is distraction a right word?
If you felt like it was.
Just I needed to be gone because I was the one that fixed whatever was wrong with him. I wasn't. It didn't work, and it was exhausting for both of us. But in his mind, that's what it was. And so I had to completely extract myself and go somewhere else so that God could do what he needed
Makes
to
sense.
do.
Yeah, because if you can see your eye on the prize, it's pretty easy to put your big boy pants on and put on your A game and do the right thing when they're in front of you. But when they're not there,
Yeah. Well,
And
she's a really pretty distraction, so.
well, yeah, I know. She totally is. And, you end up she took our two boys who were, they at the time were 13 and 6, and said, I'm gonna take them with me to Idaho, and I'll keep them busy. They're gonna go to church camp. They're gonna have fun, and you're gonna be okay. And I'm like, I'm not gonna be okay. And she's like, you're gonna be fine. I'm like, please don't go. And she's like, I'm gonna go. And then she left, and our counselor at the time recommended that we not call or text or anything like that. And
Oh, that's hard.
I was devastated.
Do we want to talk about why this happened?
We can get
do you
there.
want to? Okay.
We can get there. But like the silence of the home
Yep.
now, is this really what you want? Because there's no accountability. There's an opportunity for me to just succumb to my feeling, to my anger, to my bitterness, and just do whatever makes me feel good, and I can just do whatever I want now, and I have no one there to say different. And I remember one of the times, I don't remember if it was the second time that, I think it was the second separation that we had, where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do whatever I want, whatever makes me feel good. Obviously, this ain't working, and I've tried it, every which way, and then I, so clearly I heard the voice of God say, you can. And it stopped me in my tracks, and I said, what? And he said, you can. And I said, do what? He said, whatever you want. But remember this. What you're wanting to do is sin, and sin leads to death. And I felt this coldness come over me that I've never felt before. I'm talking a bone-chilling, frozen moment, this coldness. And it scared me to my core. It scared me so much. And the only thing I could liken it to, maybe, because I'm not Jesus, but was when Jesus was on the cross and God turned. And it said that he felt the weight of the sin of the world on him. And it was almost like a physical death that I felt, and it freaked me out. And so I fell on my face in the living room, and I said, I promise you, I will do this your way, and I will not succumb to my sin, And I made a commitment. I can keep trying and keep fighting for my marriage or not, but if I fight, it's going to be your way, and I'm going to do it whatever that looks like, And that's what kept me on track to try to salvage this marriage and hopefully pull off a miracle, And so what had happened is 2 years ago in January, and I'm going to speak in a way as to not justify or give excuses or anything like that. I just want to share my humanity with you a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I'm not trying to justify anything. But I was going through another period of severe depression, and there was just a lot of stress on my life at the time, which I think maybe helped kind of get me to this place of despair. But real estate at the time was not doing well. I wasn't used to that because when I got into the business, it was awesome. And my first year was killing it out there. Like, it was unprecedented, the amount of money that I was making in our first 2 years of real estate. It was like, that just doesn't happen. But it was when the market was great and interest rates were low and I was making money hand over fist. Well, that stopped when these interest rates shot up and people were holding on to their homes and nobody wanted to sell and do anything. And we started to freak out. Well, we got to a point where we were 4 months behind on our mortgage, and we were about to lose our beautiful home in Branson, cars. I mean, everything that we had was on the verge of loss. So I was carrying the weight of that. Our marriage wasn't doing great. So when I went to Sarah, for any kind of comfort, it wasn't there because she couldn't give me what I was needing. What I was needing was someone to feed into my ego and feed into, my insecurities and everything else. Well, that's not her job to do that, number one. But I didn't feel like we were getting anywhere, And I ended up talking to some people in my office that I worked with every day and was in the trenches with. And there was a friend of ours, a mutual, very good friend. As a matter of fact, it was one of Sarah's better friends. I don't say she was her best friend, but very good friends. Ended up getting into the business, and so I was working with her, and I'm like, hey, one of my buddies is here, so it was cool because and a bunch of people that you're just meeting professionally, I already knew her and her husband, her ex-husband, and so there was a relationship there. Well, I started to kind of talk to her more and more every day at work, and she had recently gone through a divorce, and I'm starting to hear all of her sob stories about oh, I just want to find a man. I just want this. And why can't I, all the good ones are taken and all this. And through my dysfunction and despair and depression, I'm like, well, I'm a pretty great guy, Why would I even think that way? I didn't know which way was up. I really didn't. I was drowning and I didn't know how to deal with it. And so we ended up putting ourselves in a situation where we were calling and texting a little more than we should have been, and that led to like me, us kissing a few times, and the whole time I'm like, this needs to stop. I don't want to do this. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving my wife. I'm not doing this. This has got to stop. It's got to stop. But before I could even end it, Sarah found out about it. And so, which was then one of the worst days of my life. And so this is the part of the story that you don't know, because it's been a few years since we've talked about anything significant like this. So that was the beginning. That was in January when it happened.
Can I say something?
Yes.
It was actually during the 21 days of prayer at Bloom.
At our church.
And for the first time ever, I decided to do a liquid fast. I've never done that before. And I decided to do it during this 21 days of prayer.
Wow.
And it was at the end of that. And the thing that I was praying and fasting about was our marriage. And it was at the end of that I found out. And really, it was only God, because they'd done a great job of not letting me know what was going on. So it was specifically God that led me to the iPad to find all of this stuff. Anyway, so.
Yeah. And then I think it was shortly after that where, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to remember kind of all this, but like you almost threw your hands up even with God at that time. Was that pretty accurate?
I think once the shock wore off, I was furious. It was the first time I've ever done a 21 days of prayer, and I did a liquid fast, and this is my thanks.
This is what you found out?
Yeah.
All right,
First of all, I'm hungry.
We're gonna pray right here, and then we're gonna come back and finish the story, because that'll make you come back and hear the rest of the story.
Yep.
Heavenly Father, to God, I love this couple, to God, and they're no different than any other couple. Oftentimes we think our lives are so different, and yet we're all so closely related, just different X's in our lives. So God, I pray that you'll have the people watch, that this will live on, and that you'll just see what a powerful marriage they have, to God. I just look at them and I just know God is all over them. It doesn't matter from the outside. I get to look and see, God, what you want us to see on their insides.
Yep.
So I thank you for that, and pray you bring us back in your name. Amen.
Amen.